Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
I'm Maddie Grace Webben.
And I'm Sam 2, the sequel to Sam Allman.
That's right.
And today we'll be playing Final Fantasy VII and discussing the segments at Gongaga, Cosmo, Canyon, and Nibelheim. And as a reminder, we are playing the most sellout RPG of all time, so that we can get people to get their eyes on our poll for our next game, which is going to be Bernard's Autobiographies between Skies of Arcadia and Paper Mario. Currently, Skies of Arcadia has 7 votes, which is the highest recorded vote out of any of the votes that we've ever had on the podcast. And all 7 votes are for Skies of Arcadia. So we need 7 of you people or more to come out and vote for Paper Mario to make it a huge upset. So while you head on over to www.rpgbook.club and do that, how was everybody's week?
Hold on. If you want me to have any time in my fucking life, please vote for Paper Mario, because I won't be playing that one, because I've played it multiple times in my life and watched my girlfriend play it from start to finish earlier this year, so I will not be playing it again. Skies of Arcadia I've never played, and I would love to play it, and therefore will have to play it. If you want me to be even more busy than I already am constantly, vote for Skies of Arcadia. On the other hand, if you want to hurt me in a different way by giving me more time to think about myself and my life, and be alone with my thoughts and my emotions, then you can hurt me in that way by voting for Paper Mario.
Yeah. So, what a segue. Maddie, how was your week?
Oh, boy. So, first of all, it's good to be back in the saddle. I missed 2 episodes. Yeah.
I think just one.
This one. I think we pushed one of the ones you would have missed. I think we pushed it back.
I missed a bit of time, at least. Oh, boy. So there's a lot of stuff that's been going on in my life that I haven't really been sharing, because it's still been in process, and I'm not going to give the whole story, because it would, imagine that I wasn't long-winded and that I was like a normal, I took a normal amount of time to explain things like a normal person. It would take 30 minutes. Or longer. But anyway, the long and short of it is very mixed bag. If you asked me a few days ago how I was doing, I would have had a lot worse of an answer. Let's see where to start. Well, okay, I start with the very, very good news. As those long-time listeners will know, I've been on a bit of a journey of my career for the last 19 months or so, and that journey has reached its end in a good way, not in a bad way. I didn't get fired.
End of your career. Okay, yeah.
No. No. After a year and after working at UPS as a part-timer, night shift sorting for a year, and then attempting to be a driver and getting disqualified after 1 week, and then having to wait 6 months, and then trying again, I passed my 30-day probation, and as of literally today was my first day as a full-time non-probation driver.
Yay!
Which is really exciting. It was really hard, and I've been really looking forward to it for a long time. I was hoping that this would happen back in May, but I got disqualified, so it didn't happen in May. But it happened now. Right up until the end, I thought something was going to happen. I was like, literally, I already know I passed. They've pretty much told me that I've passed. They've told me I'm doing a great job. They've already talked about what I'm going to be doing, like, next week after I have officially passed my probation. But still, I was thinking to myself yesterday, I could literally, hit something with my car today. And if I did that, I would get disqualified on my literal last day, right? That wasn't likely. I'm good at driving the car, but it could have happened, right? And I have a lot of self-esteem issues around being a screw-up, and trying my very, very best at things and still failing, in a way that I feel like is more than, I don't know, most people. And it really hits me right in the, the self-worth, for reasons that are even worse lately because of this other stuff I'm about to tell you about. So I really just found it very hard to believe I would actually succeed in this very big thing that I put so much work into. But I did. So I feel really, really good about that. And boy, the job hits a lot different when you're not on probation. Today I did this crazy thing called taking a break.
What?
And I took a lunch. I mean, okay, here's the thing. Maybe I should say this. Whatever. People don't listen, I guess. Look, here's the thing about UPS, okay? Legally, they are required to give us a 15-minute break in the morning and in the afternoon, according to both late state and national, maybe at least state labor laws.
To at least allow it. Yeah.
They are required for us to have a 15-minute paid break, according to California labor law and our union contract. They are also required to give us a 1-hour lunch, according to California labor law and or our union contract. And during those breaks, we are not to do work. And that is definitely what happens because it's the law and it's in our union contract. And if you're on probation, even if you know that your stats would be much better and you'd be much more likely to pass your probation, you definitely don't ever work through your entire lunch eating a sandwich with your left hand while sorting all of your boxes with your right hand, a process that takes about 1 hour. Definitely not a thing that ever happens. Anyway, today during lunch, I locked my truck, took a block to a little chicken restaurant, sat down and had chicken. It was fucking awesome. It was a completely different ball game. And during my 15-minute break, I shopped at the bookstore that I deliver books to every day, but instead I shopped there. It's also coincidentally my favorite bookstore in the Bay Area. Shout outs to Walden Pond Books and my friend Netter, who works there. After I delivered the books, they were like, all right, see you tomorrow. And I was like, no, not see me tomorrow, because guess what I'm going to do? And they said, what? And I pulled out my little computer thingy and I said, I'm going on my break. and then I shopped for books. I didn't find anything I wanted to buy, but it's a great bookstore. Yeah, I don't know. It's literally like I did not realize how much of a weight it had been on me. Like, today felt completely different than yesterday at work, even though it's still like very hard work. It was fucking great. The other thing is that due to a very, 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 very long, many months long process of, let's just call it trauma, I guess. As you'll know, a while back I ended up breaking up with my other girlfriend, the long distance girlfriend, and it was very sad. But I was going to move past it. But then something much worse happened, which was that this person broke up with me as a friend. Entirely. Like we're not friends anymore at all, period, in a text. And that really hurt. It hurt a million times worse than the breakup did. It hurt me like maybe worse than my divorce did. Like, it's bad. It's really bad. And it led to, and that was in the middle of my probation, for driving. And it led to what I think will probably go down in the history of my life. I think it'll probably go down as the worst week of my entire life. I don't think that's an understatement. This was 2 weeks ago. It was the week before last. One of the reasons why I didn't record that week. It was completely miserable, for a variety of reasons. Again, this is a very complicated situation that I will not give you all the details, but long story short, I know it's common that dating ruins a friendship or it can hurt it, but like, I didn't think that was going to happen this time. Each of us consider the other our best friends. And each of us definitely thought that no matter what happened with the whole dating thing, we couldn't imagine the other person not being in our lives. So for this to happen, and for it to partially be due to things that were definitely my fault, hit me with the whole I always screw things up, I try really hard and I fail anyway kind of thing. Yeah, it was rough. And it led to me having a really horrible, I guess it was like a nervous breakdown of some kind. Something happened to me that has never happened to me before, so I don't know what it is. But I just had a completely normal one for many, many, many hours. And it wasn't like crying, it was like hyperventilating, freaking the fuck out. It went on for a long time. Yeah. Incidentally, that day I also drove a truck for 13 hours, and it was dark and raining for most of it.
Nice.
Dark plus raining plus extremely windy roads plus if my car even so much as touches another vehicle, I get disqualified. Yeah, it wasn't fun. Anyway, that's
Sounds relaxing.
Final thing is that my girlfriend, the one that didn't break up with me, the one I live with, who I love very much, Kali, got bottom surgery, which is a huge deal. And that happened right in the middle of all this other stuff. But because I'm driving for so many hours a day, I can't take care of him, which sucks and it's bad timing. But he's being taken care of by other people, in a hotel room, and will be home on Friday. So, yeah, it's been a fucking 6 weeks, you guys. It's been absolutely crazy, but I'm through it, basically. The driving thing's over. My GF's gonna be home literally tomorrow. And emotionally, I'm recovering. So, there you go. And
things just don't stop from keep happening constantly.
No, it's been it's been a maelstrom, emotional maelstrom, such that I have literally not experienced in many, 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 many years. Like, it's a life-altering period of time right now in a very significant way.
That's a lot at once.
Yeah, and all of them would have been tough individually. That's the thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. Anyway, that's it. I know it took a bit of time, but there's no way I could not have, and figured I'd probably want to know. So, but hey, I mean, like, only one of the things I just said is really, really awful and shitty. The others are great. My girlfriend got a surgery that he's been looking forward to, and is going to be a happier person afterward. Although it's like months of recovery. And now I get to be hyper exploited as a 22.4 hybrid driver for UPS for about for the next, I would say, 9 months or so, until we go on strike and get rid of the 22.4 hybrid driver contract, and I become a normal driver instead.
Nice.
Love to be normal driver.
That's the number one strike issue negotiation issue for the contract, for the record, is that they invented a shittier version of a driver, which is what in the last contract, and we want them to get rid of the shittier version of the driver, and all the shittier version of drivers, like I am, just become the same as all the other drivers. So, look forward to that. I'm done.
So, today was my last day at my old job. It was kind of sad.
Go.
I hate
the
the customers so much, but I like my coworkers. And it was sort of sad. But not sad about not having to deal with those customers anymore. Oof. And yesterday, I went to Alamo Drafthouse and saw Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which
how was
you
it?
can watch. You can watch it on Netflix because it's a Netflix original, but I like going to movie theaters. It's amazing. It's hilarious, and it made me cry.
I love Del Toro, so I've been looking forward to it.
I read a review of it. Where the review was I found the review was having, like, me having some serious emotions, not even the actual movie. So I'm like, I need to fucking watch this movie.
Yeah, my only real problem with it is that there are a few musical numbers in it, and they're not good. They're, like, kind of fine and serviceable, but, like, most of the, like, I think there's, like, 3 or so things that I would actually call musical numbers, and, like, one of them is just kind of not a very good song, and another is completely unnecessary and not a very good song.
Guys, just because it's a kids movie doesn't mean it has to have musical numbers.
But there are also scenes where, like, Pinocchio is performing and he's doing a song and dance, and those are fine. Also, there's a song at the beginning which is not really a musical number, it's just sort of a diegetic real song, and it's beautiful.
Well, that's nice.
I have done two really cool, awesome things. I exchanged Christmas gifts with my partner, and they found me a bunch of the Eighth Doctor Adventure dime store novels from like the 90s and 2000s, which are awesome because the Eighth Doctor is my favorite Doctor, and I, being Sam Allman, am into the weird shit and not any of the stuff that normal people like. And so not only is it the Doctor that's nobody's favorite because he was only in the movie, but it's also not his audio dramas, which are what most people know him from. No, it's these crappy novels that came out in the 90s. And now I have like 5 of them. And that's super cool and exciting. The other thing that I've been up to is I've been in excruciating pain since Saturday, and I'm going to stay that way until January 13th. And I hate it. I hate it so bad.
Until January 13th?
Until January 13th.
Why?
That's a month away.
It's a month away. So, my parents never took me to the dentist. I learned from my brother today that the reason why is back when we were kids, my brother had little kid teeth and needed braces, so they were like talking to the dentist like, oh, what should we get for braces? And they tried to like upsell them into like breaking Michael's jaw to like realign like super mega ultra braces or whatnot. And my parents rightfully got mad and stormed out, but then wrongfully didn't get us a new dentist and continue taking us to the dentist ever again. So
they were just soured on the whole field of dentistry.
Yes.
They're like, you know what? We're good. The whole dentist thing.
Yeah, so I haven't been to the dentist for my grown-up teeth, and so chunks of my wisdom tooth started falling out a couple weeks ago. That was scary. So I decided to be a big boy and finally go to the dentist. And the dentist was like, you know what? I've seen people who have been going to the dentist their whole life and had worse teeth than this. You need to get your wisdom teeth out, and you have a couple cavities to fill, and then a bunch of deep cleaning to do, but your teeth really aren't so bad, which like took so much like stress off of me, because I was certain I was going to go in there, they were going to laugh, call the other dentists in there to look at my x-rays so all of them could laugh, rip all my teeth out and give me veneers. But
be like, damn bro, you're fucked. You're never going to be able to eat again.
Yeah, but
you're gonna have to bring in a 19th century barber to get all this out.
Yeah. But no, it wasn't that bad at all. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's get let's do the thing. And so we set up our care plan and everything. And when they showed it to me, I thought that it said $15 copay for all of my cleanings. They were $86 copays. So I'm currently $300 in the hole and not even done with the cleaning part of it. Then I go to have my consult for my wisdom teeth because they've been hurting me really, really bad since Saturday. I went to my regular dentist on Monday and she was like, yeah, they're ready to come out. So I talked to him. His next opening, it would be on the 30th of December, which I signed up to be the only person working on the 30th of December because who gives a shit, but everybody else has it off for New Year's. And so being the only person working, I can't take it off. And so I was like, okay, when's the next one? And the next one after that is the 13th of January. And that really sucks. And so I told them that it hurts a lot. And they were like, try harder and take more Tylenol and ibuprofen. So
do some breathing.
So fun fact, you can take Tylenol and ibuprofen at the same time. And even funner fact is
very important information.
The two of them together is like a better painkiller than prescription like opioid painkillers, and we probably could have like avoided the opioid epidemic if people would have like said that to people. Yeah, and so every 3 hours I alternate if I'm taking 5 ibuprofen or 2 extra strength Tylenol, because Tylenol you can definitely take too much. If you take ibuprofen, the thing that too much of it does is like messes with your gut. So if you take too much of it constantly all the time forever, hopefully for longer than a month, because that's how long I have to do it. But it just you'll kind of have an upset stomach, and then you'll bounce back from it. So load up on ibuprofen every 6 hours, and then stagger it by 3 hours and take your recommended dosage of Tylenol, and then things won't hurt as much. But I've still been in excruciating pain since Saturday doing that. So by George, I really hope that this medicine never wears off, because I don't want to know what it's like if supposedly my body is on better than opioids painkillers right now.
Is it possible that one of the people in line ahead of you will be like, you know what, I want to keep them? And you can go ahead?
I did sign up for that. So that will, if that happens, it'll happen. So if I go this year, where I've already used some dental insurance for the other things, it'll cost me, at the worst estimate, is $800 to get them yanked out. And then if it happens next year, it'll be like $500 worst estimate to get them yanked out, which is still a lot, and I still hate it. And everyone should be voting for Medicare for all, and that should include dental insurance. Like the fact that I have to be in pain for a month to only financially wreck myself until tax season, where I can pay off all of the things that I owe, is ridiculous. I should just be able to go and stop hurting. But alas,
a lot too. I've had a situation like that before. It is some of the worst pain I've ever felt, honestly. So like,
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, I almost canceled tonight, not because of any reason whatsoever. I just kind of didn't feel like doing anything because it hurts. So that'll be fun. I have my mute button handy just in case I have to exclaim in pain while we're recording. So that'll be fun. But other than that, I've taken up cross stitching, and I'm good at it, and I like it, and that's what I'm doing with my hands to be able to podcast efficiently right now. What about you, Negasam? What are you up to?
Let's see. Oh gosh, I always forget exactly when we recorded. Did I tell y'all that I got a Crisis Core remake early?
No.
Yeah, I pre-ordered it through Best Buy because they had a steelbook case, and I am a sucker for a steelbook case. And it arrived 2 days early. Just showed up in the mail, and I'm like, hell yeah! So
yeah.
I was playing. I had like multiple friends on Discord just message me like, "How are you playing that?" So that was fun.
That reminds me of a pro tip that I discovered while selling some stuff on eBay, some old games on eBay. Apparently, unopened steelbook cases, like with the plastic still on them, can sell for a lot. So
really?
If you don't care about steelbook case, pre-order from somewhere that gives you one and just keep the plastic wrap on it for a year.
Huh.
And get like $70 for it.
Nice.
That is
anyway. Continue.
Cool. I love mine too much, but I have at this point I have like a lot of Final Fantasy games in particular with steelbook cases and other things. But yeah, okay. So let's see. So yeah, it's pretty good. Crisis Core is a weird one for me because it's good, but man, do like a lot of presentational elements, even down to the writing from a 2009 PSP game show. You know, like. The graphics are very.
I noticed that in the trailer. I was like, none of these clips in the trailer have like any like verb to them at all. Damn.
Yeah, like there are some good conversation animations and stuff, but the staging in cutscenes is, other than the pre-rendered ones, obviously, is pretty static, which, is a normal thing. I'm used to that from all sorts of like RPGs that utilize procedural animation systems and such. But that and like the pace, it still has a bit of that thing where pacing felt weird in like sort of the PS2 into a little the PS3 era, where it's almost like it can't quite load the animations and dialogue quickly enough, so it sometimes feels a little weird. And the writing too, like there'll be, it feels in a lot of ways like Final Fantasy VII, where they'll have like moments or lines of dialogue that are theoretically really interesting or insightful, but they just kind of pass by really quickly and get moved on from immediately. And it's interesting, but it is pretty good. I'm still enjoying it. I haven't played it since it originally came out on the PSP, so I don't remember much of it aside from the ending. Because everyone remembers the ending of Crisis. That's the only thing I think everyone remembers about Crisis Core. But yeah, it's pretty good. Soundtrack is fantastic, of course. Also, really, really good soundtrack. But yeah, it's good. I started finally playing Disco Elysium, like for reals, which is also really weird and excellent, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
It's really good. I need to play the rest of it.
Yeah, I
need to get more depressed so I can go play it some more.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's a good one. I'm liking it a lot. So let's see. Aside from that, I don't know how much interesting stuff has happened. I'm still editing my Fatal Frame 2 video. A young child at my work said that music is stored in cars, and that's why we can listen to it in cars. So that was cute.
Yeah, I buy it.
Yeah.
Checks out.
Yep. Yeah. Aside from that, I don't know. I think that's about it for me. So
nice. So let's listen into a fair use amount of Final Fantasy VII music, and then we'll talk about the plot for this week.
Wow, can you believe how fair that use was?
Damn.
I assume it was the Cosmo Canyon music, but I don't know.
It was so non-actionable.
Mm-hmm. And if it was in Minecraft.
That's right.
All right. So the gang stops by some blown-out-looking crater in the jungle in their search for Sephiroth. They see Reno and Rude ahead of them. Reno asks Rude who he likes. Rude says he likes Tifa. Reno's like, oh man, but Alina likes you. Rude's like, no, Alina likes Sung. Reno's like, but Sung likes the Ancient. It's stupid.
It's really stupid.
Alina runs up, the Turks bicker, then she leaves to report to Sung. Rude and Reno finally notice the party standing there, and we have a boss fight, which is not too hard. After getting their asses kicked, the Turks retreat. The party is like... Yes.
Oh, sorry, just it's a silly conversation, but also like Reno liking Tifa, sure, I could buy that. Sung liking the girl that he kidnapped a little while ago, iffy. I don't know about that. That
a little weird.
Remember when he slapped her?
Oh, I forgot about that. But yes, now I do. Yes. But which, I think somewhere around here we also find out that they were like childhood friends or something, but like nah, that ain't it.
Mm-hmm.
They grew up in the same orphanage, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the party is like, how did the Turks know we'd be here? It's almost as if there were a spy among us. Cloud doesn't even want to think that's the case. He trusts everyone, even Yuffie and Ketchi, who are both pretty sus.
And who he barely knows.
Yuffie especially, like, if In fact, I would not even. I was gonna say if you had some reason to suspect someone, it would be Yuffie. But honestly, you don't even need a reason. Like the second some random person you don't know kind of just like very bluntly insinuates himself into your team and is just like, "I'm here now." No, I don't have a particularly good reason. You should be like,
since Yuffie, like, depending on how the time with her, like, you know, recruiting her went, Yuffie may have already stolen from you multiple times by this point. So, like, trusting her like that is certainly questionable.
Also, and this isn't a spoiler because I don't actually remember, I think later it turns out that she was sus all along. Not in, like, a major plot way, but in, like, some minor way.
I will neither confirm nor deny since it's a spoiler, potentially. The party explores and finds a completely exploded Mako reactor. They hear a helicopter and hide. Scarlet and Sung step out of the helicopter. Scarlet is searching for big, large, huge materia, but doesn't find any. She tells Sung that if they can find it, they can build the ultimate weapon to surpass Metal Gear. They leave. Cloud wonders just what Shinra is up to. The party explores more and finds the ruined town of Gongaga. It's not quite as shitty as North Corel, but it's pretty shitty. Talking to the townsfolk, it seems the town got shitty because their Mako reactor exploded, and since then they've been living without Mako energy. The party wanders uninvited into a house, and the old couple there immediately clock Cloud for a soldier. They ask if he knew their son, Zack, who left a long time ago to join Soldier, but hasn't written to them in a while. Aerith is shocked when she hears the name and steps outside. Cloud finds Aerith. She says she didn't realize this is where Zack was from. She reveals that Zack is the guy from her past that she's alluded to a few times. Cloud is baffled that he's never heard of Zack despite the guy apparently making first class. Aerith says it's in the past now. She was just worried because 5 years ago he left on a job and never came back. She insists that she doesn't mind that she never heard from him again, but she feels bad for his parents. The gang leaves Gongaga to continue searching the region. While we're crossing a canyon, we see a town in the canyon. If we try to drive past it, the buggy breaks down. Guess we gotta do this town's episode before we move on.
Oh yeah, I remember that. The video I'm watching doesn't have that happen. But yeah, you know what? That did happen. The last time I actually played this game. It's just like, shit.
How would it not happen? Did they just get out of the buggy before it would have broken down, or what?
They just got out of the buggy and walked to the town.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that this happened, but it happened in one of the videos I watched to take notes. And I found it hilarious because the next town to get to, there's a river to cross, so you need the buggy.
Yeah, I think the only time this ever happened to me is like the first time I ever played the game, which as a 13-year-old, which is why remembering this right now is like a weird blast from the past situation where it's just like, oh damn.
Mm-hmm. As the gang approaches the entrance to the town, Red 13 runs up to the guard, who greets him as Nanaki. The guard tells him to go see Bugenhagen. Red 13 runs into town, but the guard blocks the party's way. He says people from all over the world come here to study the science of planet life, but they're at capacity. Red 13 pops back over and tells the guard to let them in. The guard's like, okay, Nanaki. Cloud is like, who the fuck is Nanaki? And the guard's like, Nanaki is Nanaki.
I do love that response. Like, that's the dumbest way to respond to that question.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, yeah, you're acting surprised, like I don't know who Nagi is, but like, shut the fuck up. Obviously, I need some information here, dude.
Yeah,
no need to be a little bitch about it.
At least just point and say, like, him. He's Nanaki, instead of just Nanaki is Nanaki. Like,
little guy, fire for a tail. No, we all have that.
Charizard. Okay, got it.
Yes. Cloud talks to Red 13, who explains that this is his homeland, which he and his people protected. His brave mother fought and died here, but his cowardly father fled. He is the last of his species. He says he's all that's left to protect this place, so he'll be parting ways with the party now. Someone calls for Red 13 and he runs off. Cloud finds his way to a shack at the top of the plateau in the center of town, where he finds Red 13 and a weird old guy. Red 13 introduces the weird old guy as his grandfather, Bugenhagen. He says Bugenhagen knows everything.
I think we should take a moment. We should describe what the fuck Bugenhagen looks like.
So he floats, for one thing.
He floats on an orb, but given the low polys of this game, it looks just like it looks like the bottom half of his body just is the orb. Like,
yeah, you know those like weird bad Star Wars novels back in the day that tried to have Darth Maul live by floating on his upper half on a thing, like that.
I was thinking more like it looks like maybe like a chess set or like like a miniature. You know like sometimes like they'll like characters will intentionally be rendered in such a way that like that's like their cute little gimmick, right? It's like, oh look, all these chess pieces are like the top half of a dude and the bottom half is just like a rectangle because it's a chess piece, right? Or something like that. I guess a bust is kind of bad as well. Yeah, it just looks like a weird, or like, here's what it looks like. One of those toys where you hit it, it's inflatable, and you punch it, and then it comes back at you because the bottom is weighted with sand. That's what he looks like. Looks like if you were to flick him, he'd go, and he'd always be upright. Yeah, anyway, but also he's got like a bald head and very angry eyebrows, and
tiny little sunglasses.
He's like weird, bouncy wizard Morpheus.
He's a weird dude.
I don't know. I've always, since I was a child, thought he was just the strangest looking little man.
Bugenhagen thanks Cloud for watching over Nanaki, who is still a child. Red 13 is like, Grandpa, I'm 48 years old. Bugenhagen says that's just 15 or 16 in Nanaki years.
Which I will say right now gives me an excuse to exclude him from the polyamorous relationship chart later, aside from needing to use the Harkness test to determine whether that's even okay in the first place. He's not going to be in there, so...
He's a
awesome.
Yeah.
Red 13 tells Bugenhagen that he wants to grow up to protect Bugenhagen and the villagers. Bugenhagen says it's too early for all that. You know how when you say a word a lot, it stops sounding like a word? It only takes like 2 times for Bugenhagen.
Bugenhagen. Yeah, that's true.
Bugenhagen muses about Midgar and mentions that the planet's gonna die. Cloud is like, what? Bugenhagen's like, yeah, I don't know when, but it's gonna happen. He heard the cries of the cosmos. A spooky sound starts playing. Bugenhagen says at this moment, stars and planets are being born while others are dying. Then they hear a sound which he identifies as a scream from their planet. Red 13 says Cloud and his friends are on a mission to save the planet, and Bugenhagen should show them his machine. Bugenhagen says saving the planet is a fool's errand, but he might as well show them. Cloud selects 2 party members to join him, and they enter Bugenhagen's crazy planetarium. Bugenhagen switches on the machine, and they're treated to an elaborate light show of the cosmos.
The graphics are neat.
Yes. Aerith comments on how great the graphics are. If we brought her, but we did, because of course we did.
We love her.
Bugenhagen says it's time for a biology lesson. People die, then their body decomposes and returns to the planet. But what happens to their consciousness, their soul? It too returns to the planet, and not just that of people. The same applies to all living things on the planet, nay, the universe itself. They form a surge of spiritual energy which flows around the planet. It's called the life stream. New life is blessed with spiritual energy, and when it dies, that energy returns to the planet to be given anew. Not only plants and creatures, but the planet itself rely on this spiritual energy. But what if that energy were to be taken away? Bugenhagen absorbs all the energy out of the representation of their planet, and it turns black and crumbles.
Is that good?
It crumbles, and the pieces start falling down, if I remember correctly, which raises some questions about gravity. Bugenhagen explains that when spiritual energy is forcibly extracted and processed, it is prevented from accomplishing its true reason for being. Mako reactors are rapidly depleting the planet's spiritual energy. This has one outcome: the complete destruction of the planet. Bugenhagen turns off the planetarium and says the lesson is over. The gang heads down to the village square and sits around a campfire. Cloud sits next to Barrett. Barrett says Avalanche was born here in Cosmo Canyon. He had promised the guys that after they defeated Shinra, they'd go to Cosmo Canyon and celebrate. But now they're gone. Barrett questions whether all he's done was really for the sake of the planet, or if it was just because he hates Shinra. He wonders if he has any right to continue on this journey. He doesn't know, but he makes up his mind that if there's anything he can do to save the planet, he'll do it. Whether it's justice or revenge doesn't matter. He declares Avalanche reborn. Cloud talks to Ketshi, who just mysteriously says this place brings back memories. He then sits next to Aerith, who says the village elders taught her a lot about the Cetra and the Promised Land. She feels totally alone. Cloud says, we're here for you. She says she's still the last of the Cetra and ends the conversation. Cloud goes and sits next to Tifa. She says campfires make you remember all sorts of things. She starts to say something about 5 years ago, but then says she's too afraid to ask. Cloud is like, no, what? She says Cloud has felt strange and distant. She asks, you're really you, right? Ominous. Cloud turns to Red 13, who seems troubled. He says it's because of his parents. He's filled with pride for his mother, but rage at his father. Bugenhagen floats up and asks if Red 13 really can't forgive his father. Red 13 says, of course not. When the Gi attacked, he ran off alone, abandoning the people of the canyon. Bugenhagen says there is something he should see, but it's dangerous, so Cloud and exactly one other person should accompany them. Bugenhagen leads the party to a sealed door, which he opens with a secret switch. They enter and climb down a long shaft. The town music fades away as they descend, and it's real cool. They enter a pretty lengthy dungeon. As they explore, Bugenhagen says the ghosts of the Gi tribe haunt this place. They were all defeated by a certain warrior, but their vengeful spirits remained, unable to return to the life stream for unexplored reasons. Bugenhagen says that if the Gi tribe had gotten through this cave when they attacked, the canyon would have surely fallen. The aforementioned warrior ran through this cave alone, fighting the invaders one by one. The party fights a boss, which doesn't really have any significance, then exits the cave into the canyon. Red 13 is shocked by something he sees above. Bugenhagen says it is the warrior who prevented the invaders from getting through the cave. It is Red 13's father, Seto. Kaiba.
If you didn't say it, I would have.
Thank you. The camera pans up and we see a stone lion dog pierced by arrows. Bugenhagen says Seto continued to fight here even after the Gi had shot him with petrifying arrows. He protected this canyon and still protects it now. Red 13 had thought his father was a coward, but he gave his life to save the village. Red 13 asks if his mother knew. She did. She asks Bugenhagen to seal this cave and let it be forgotten. Bugenhagen asks Cloud and party member number 3 to give them some privacy. He tells Red 13 that he must continue on his journey with Cloud and company. Bugenhagen doesn't actually think they can save the planet. Even if they shut down every Mako reactor and stop Sephiroth, the planet will perish eventually. But lately, he's been thinking, when the planet suffers so horribly, we have a duty to try and help it instead of just accepting our fate. Red 13 says he'll go. He proudly declares that he is an Anaki of Cosmo Canyon, son of the warrior Seto. He will return a warrior true to that noble name. Tears fall from Seto, who, for the record, is still made of stone. Nanaki looks up to his father and howls. So I have 2 questions. One, are we going to call him Red 13 or Nanaki from now on? Because he's sort of just...
I'm just going to call him Red 13 personally.
Yeah. It feels like they should call him...
I went on this rant a little bit the first, when he was first introduced, but yeah. I think that it's a missed opportunity that the game doesn't allow us to change the way that we refer to him and instead just keep giving him his Yeah, this entire arc is about him like running from his identity because of this, and this is the conclusion of that when he accepts who he is and moves forward with it. And we're just like, yeah, whatever, experiment. Like, I don't know. I'm calling him Nanaki.
I'm not actually playing the game this time, but pretend like I am playing it. We should just call him what my game calls him, which is Bupper.
That's silly. My next question is, why did they let Nanaki believe that his father was a coward? Why didn't Bugenhagen tell him?
Okay, that's a fair question.
Like,
I don't have a good
40 years
answer,
ago?
but it's also because I don't think it's interesting or find this character to be interesting, so therefore I haven't thought about it very much.
I love this episode, except I don't see any reason why Bugenhagen...
Because he needed to go through a little arc.
I guess.
Yeah, I really love this scene, but you're right. That's fair.
Yeah, I don't get it. Anyway, the next day, the gang prepares to leave without Red 13. But as they head out, Red 13 bounds up to them and says he's coming too. Bugenhagen floats up and asks Cloud to watch over Nanaki. Cloud asks what happened. Nanaki says he grew up a little. That's what happened. The gang leaves and continues searching the area for Sephiroth. They come to the spot where Nibelheim used to be. Except it's there, not burned down, exactly as they knew it before Sephiroth happened. Tifa and Cloud are confused. They talk to the townsfolk, but don't recognize any of them. They all deny that anything terrible ever happened. By snooping around, the party finds out that Shinra rebuilt the town and has employees acting as its citizens to cover up the atrocity 5 years ago. Also, the town is lousy with dudes in black cloaks with number tattoos. They all mutter stuff about Sephiroth and reunion. One indicates that Sephiroth is in Shinra Manor. The party enters. They find a letter from Hojo in which he says he must eliminate those who would interfere with his research, that man from the Turks being no exception. He says he made some improvements to his body and put him to sleep in the basement. For some reason, he's set up a series of clues to get the combination to open the safe to get to the key, to unlock the door to get to the room where the guy is being kept.
Just turns into Resident Evil for a minute. It's great.
You could just lock the door and have the key on your person and never let anybody in, but you know what? Complex puzzles and riddles are a much better security method.
So Cloud Googles the combination and opens the safe. For some reason, this is a timed thing, and it's really hard to input it in the short time frame because it's like real sensitive when you're pressing the buttons to change the number.
I will say, if you don't Google it, the puzzles and riddles are actually pretty fun. I don't know. I remember them being fun, and watching the video of someone doing them was fun. Nothing crazy. It's just like one of them is like, you got to walk this many paces this way, this many paces this way. And there's always some like, talking about the hands are at whatever, and you realize, they're talking about a clock. Some bookshelves. It's it's just typical like Scooby-Doo Manor ass shit where you just walk around and click on shit for a bit, and you do need to use your noggin a little bit. It's fun.
So a really hard boss pops out of the safe. The party fights it, forgets to pick up the key from the safe, goes down to the secret basement, realizes they didn't automatically get the key, goes back up, gets the key, then heads back down, fighting numerous awful random battles the whole way.
Wasn't that boss Lost Number too, by the way?
I believe it had an attack called that.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe that was the name of the boss? I don't know, but that sounds familiar.
I just saw it and was like, is that a Pokemon joke? I don't...
Anyway, they open the door in the basement and find it full of coffins. One has a lid on it. They inspect it. A voice from within asks who dares wake him from his nightmare. The lid flies off the coffin and a vampire-looking dude sits up. He tells the party to leave. Aerith's like, no wonder you were having nightmares sleeping in a place like this. The vampire says this long nightmare is his redemption. He says this mansion is where the nightmare began. Cloud is like, you can say that again. This is where Sephiroth went psycho. The vampire's like, wait, you know Sephiroth? Cloud is like, wait, you know Sephiroth? The vampire demands Cloud tell him his relationship with Sephiroth. After Cloud explains how Sephiroth learned about the Genova project, the vampire declines to reveal his relationship to Sephiroth. He simply says knowing this has added upon him another sin, and he will be greeted by even worse nightmares. He tells the party to leave again.
Be normal, man.
He's not normal. And especially in the original translation, a lot of what he says doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, here's the thing. This character is more important to the plot, the actual real plot of the game, than Barrett, Tifa, Ketchy, Yuffie, or Sid. And it's really weird that he's an optional character you find in a coffin.
Mm-hmm. They made some interesting stuff optional. A lot, like also going to Gongaga is optional.
Oh yeah, it is. I've never not done it, but that I have been made aware of that fact at some point. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can just walk right past it.
Yeah, if I see something like that, I'm gonna stop in it, just to see. But you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't they have made your buggy break down so that you have to go to Gongaga?
Just every time you see a new town, your buggy breaks down.
The buggy has a mind of its own and knows when stuff is important.
Yes.
This is the plot of Doctor Who.
That is not too inaccurate, and the fact that I know that makes me annoyed at myself.
Cloud tells the vampire dude to at least tell them who he is. The vampire says he was formerly a Turk, but he has no affiliation with Shinra now. His name is Vincent. Or I tried to figure out who Sam would call Vincent, but Sam, you haven't played this part yet, you said. So
I haven't, but it's going to be Vegeta.
Okay.
Star Lord.
I would have named him some kind of textual concatenation that will fit in the text limit of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Cloud introduces himself as a former soldier. Vincent is like, oh, you worked for Shinra too. Did you know Lucretia? Cloud is like, no. Vincent says Lucretia is the woman who gave birth to Sephiroth. Cloud is like, wait, I thought Genova was Sephiroth's mother. Vincent says that is a myth, though not without merit. In truth, he was born to a beautiful woman named Lucretia. She was an assistant to Professor Gast, the man responsible for the Genova project. Beautiful Lucretia. Vincent says he was unable to prevent the experiment, unable to change her mind. Those are his sins. He let the woman he loved suffer a terrible fate. He lays down and the lid flies back on the coffin. The party can't get anything else out of him, so they leave the room and head further into the basement. Cloud sees Sephiroth in the library, who says being here brings back memories. He asks Cloud if he'll be participating in the reunion. Cloud says he doesn't even know what a reunion is. Sephiroth says Genova is holding a reunion, and with it, she will become the Calamity from the sky. Cloud is like, Calamity from the sky? But I thought Genova was an ancient. Sephiroth is like, well, sounds like you're not joining us. I'm heading to Mount Nibel. Come and join us if you awaken. He throws a materia at Cloud for some reason and flies away. As the party goes to leave the basement, Vincent hops on screen. He says, if I go with you, will I encounter Hojo? Cloud's like, I don't know, probably. Vincent mutters Lucretia's name and says he's decided to join the gang's adventure. Cloud's like, okay. The gang leaves town and heads for Mount Nibel. And we'll see what they find there next week.
Yep. Man, I just gotta say, I just realized, man, all you gotta do if you want to come across as really mysterious is if you and a group go to some place, just be like, this place brings back memories, and don't elaborate.
Mm-hmm.
People are gonna be like, what did she mean by that?
Yeah, like if someone just even asks, like what? And then you gotta be like,
you say,
I'm not telling.
it's easy. You just say something like, that's a story for another time. Or you say,
that's good.
I can't. It's it brings the memories are too painful.
Ooh, that's even
Or
better.
there's all kinds of things you can say about that. Just vaguely allude to the fact that you are somewhat aware, that you're more aware of what's going on than everyone else, even when you're not. Or you can be like, if you run into someone, like maybe you're in like a meeting and there's someone there and someone introduces you, or maybe you're at a bar or whatever, and you're like, that man, I haven't seen him since that day. Like if I saw my buddy, like, I don't know, let me think of a random person. Like, I don't know, if I saw someone named like Chuck or whatever, and I'd be like, it's like, yeah, it's crazy that Chuck was there at that party. I haven't seen Chuck since that day. And in my brain, I'm thinking in my brain, I'm thinking literally the last time I saw Chuck was a few years ago, but like it was just like the day that, like, you know, we like did karaoke one time and it was fun. But you don't have to say that, you know, just say that day ...
Yeah, and make sure that the subtitles for what you're saying either says that day in quotes or in all caps.
Yes.
You could also say since the incident, because singing karaoke is an incident.
That's right. Yeah, you don't need to know that the incident was just like your car like wouldn't start and he gave you a jump.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, get one of your friends in on it if you want to go even more like anime bullshit. Get a friend to go like, do you think he's talking about that?
And again, and no one needs to know the fact that you haven't seen him in 2 years just because, like, you're busy.
Speaking of incidents, let's listen to a little bit more Final Fantasy VII music and then talk about our memorable incidents. Okay, so I always thought that Final Fantasy VII was overrated, and the fact that so many people really, really liked it must just mean that, like, it was lowest common denominator and wasn't actually as good as it was. And then when I finally played it, I like enjoyed the Midgar part. And I thought that, like, it was really, really good. And then everyone sits down around a fucking campfire and just like talks about their feelings, and I'm like, never mind, this game is even better than everybody thought. Yep. And it was this moment in the game that I completely 180'd on my thoughts about Final Fantasy VII. It's so good.
I think Barrett's little monologue in particular at the campfire scene is really great, which is why it's a shame that in the original translation he misses an entire fucking word and says, "Do I even got a to go on?"
Yeah. Do I even got the to go on? Oh no.
It's a real shame that that's there in the middle of his very emotional dialogue.
The highlight for me, because I always forget that this bonfire scene exists until I play the game again, and then I'm like, oh man, it's so good. The highlight for me of it, though, is the Aerith one, because there's this, like, it's so sad in the first place, but then the way that conversation actually ends is that, like, when she says that she's the last of her kind, Cloud asks, does that mean we can't help? And the conversation, and like Aerith just doesn't respond to that. She doesn't say a word in response, which is just the saddest fucking thing, and it's very good. And
like Aerith being that down is really hits you because she's usually a very positive, energetic person, and
yeah.
So
one thing that really gets me about this scene, and also this game broadly, this is really a way that it broke away from, it really advanced sort of the craft from like FF6, and in some ways even does it better than other later FF games, is like, you really get the feeling that these characters they really all do have their own motivations and their reasons for being, and their reasons for being there and doing what they're doing. Most of them. And those reasons feel like they are present throughout the game and not just like, I don't know, when they give their big hero speech at the end, or when they first join up. Like in earlier RPGs, and part of it is just a factor of like technology. Like the games have more writing, they have more scenes, right? Therefore, the characters don't just dissolve into the collective party after they have their intro cutscene. But like you really, what really gets me is even though the game spends a decent amount of time exploring each character by giving them their own little quests, like I'm so bummed out that I missed all the golden saucer shit because that is Barrett's story is I think my favorite in the game. Like with dying and all that. It's just and not because for any deep reason, like not because of some thematic thing that just hits. I just think it's really well done, and it really pulls at the heartstrings in a way that is really nice. This little micro tragedy, like it's just really good. It's just a damn shame I wasn't here for that episode. Point is though, even though the game spends so much time giving each character their own little thing and explicitly talking to them and having them share their thoughts and feelings, what really makes it work is not those parts. It's the parts where, as Sam just alluded to, Eris doesn't talk about her feelings here, right? Like the characters' feelings exist even when it's not time for their subplot. And that's really and that's really, really cool. And when you put all the characters together in a bonfire, you're gonna have them all having different approaches to things, different responses to other characters, based on their own internal shit that they're dealing with, based on the self that they haven't fully discovered yet, right? Because Barrett, especially, Barrett does not. Ironically, Barrett simultaneously is the person with the most obvious reason to do what he's doing, and also I feel like the person who has done the least introspection about why he's doing what he's doing. Which is super, super cool, right? He has to really learn what he's doing. Like, yeah, he wants to save the planet, but like, what does that really mean, right? What does that mean? Why do you care so much about this? What does it look like in your life to be a cadre, to be someone who is devoted to this cause? Yeah, I don't know. It's something that I hadn't really thought about until this playthrough of the game, is how that little there's a lot of subtlety to themes that are not explicitly about things, that they can still manage to make them about things.
I think that Tifa's section in the bonfire also really speaks to that, because there is, like, we can't talk about what yet because colossal spoilers, but there is a lot going on there. Like, she says that it feels like Cloud is going far away and asks if he's really him. And if you know stuff about later, you know that is a very, very loaded question in ways that even, like, she and Cloud don't fully understand at this point. And it's interesting for Tifa, too, because this might just be me, but at this point in the story, Tifa almost feels like a tag-along. Like, I can point to reasons why everyone is doing what they're doing and why they're here, except for Tifa. Like, she's kind of here because the people that she cares about are doing this too, as opposed to having a personal reason to do it. And so this alluding to sort of why the reason that she has to be with them is so compelling. Like, there's a lot stewing here under the surface, and it's always sort of prodding at it, but never fully going into it. It remains unspoken.
And that's the real thing, is that even you don't even need to know the spoilers to be just like, oh, like Tifa is concerned about her friend. Like, she's the mom friend. And as someone who, I mean, I wasn't the mom friend last time I played this game because I wasn't a mom, or a mom friend, but now that's like who I almost always am in any situation. And it's like, oh, like, her friend is going through some shit and is not talking to her about it, right? And Aerith is like that too, but it's just like, sometimes you're just not ready yet. You're not ready to talk about it yet. Or sometimes, as we all learn with Aerith, sometimes no one can do anything except be there. Except maybe not even that, you know? Everyone is a little bit of an island, but not 100%. And negotiating the tension between people having connections, but also people being individuals and not being able to have the connection is something that this game deals with through its entire, runtime.
And I think it's amazing that there's so much depth here for all the characters that matter, not Ketchi or Yuffie, but all the characters that matter. From a fairly short scene in the middle of the Nanaki episode, we have all this development from Barrett and Aerith and Tifa.
And that's why the Cosmo Canyon episode is so memorable, because it is the Nanaki episode, and as I've jokingly, but also like I am serious, but I'm just being a hater as a bit. Also, like, I don't care about Nanaki or think his story is interesting, but in the middle of his story, you've also got this scene that has very important character shit for every character in the game and a lot of really important emotions, but also a massive lore dump about, like, this game's mythology and cosmology and mechanics and stuff. Like, there's a lot of very important, like, a whole bunch of different of different threads are being pulled into this one location in the game for, like, really no particular reason. Like, there's no reason why the characters had to have their little campfire scene here. Like, yeah, it's probably the best choice, but, like, it could have been a different part of the game, right? But they just sort of jam-packed this part with stuff, and it's so memorable.
Even, like, just a lore dump, it's, like, extremely crucial lore.
Yeah.
Like this is how... this information here is core, and I'm sure I'll talk more about it in my mem-moms, but this information here is core to a lot of the game's thematic and political and metaphorical significance, and it even has a lot of optional stuff too that is sort of related to it. Like, you can talk to a researcher or something, I think, or one of the elders who talks about Professor Gast, who I don't know. I think Professor Gast has come up once or twice in passing, but I don't think we've mentioned him. And like, just talks about Gast and how cool he was and how he went missing, and says that if we find him, he wants us to tell him that the old man that likes to drink in Cosmo Canyon wants to hear more about the ancients from him. Mm-hmm. And there are people... let's see. There's a line where one of the elders is giving us the most detailed information, even if it is somewhat like theory or speculation, that we pretty much ever get about the concept of the Promised Land, about how, like, he doesn't think it exists for anyone now, but it did for the ancients, that the ancients are basically capable of, like, going to the live stream as their resting place and still having a continuous journey there somehow. There's another one who talks about how you live with the planet and die with the planet, and maybe that's how it should be. I'm full of booze, but it's when I think about the children, I wonder if we could just save our own children. Like, there's a lot of great stuff in Cosmo Canyon. Mm-hmm. So it's just a great little segment, just jam-packed with meaning and lore and interesting little bits.
Also, really good music.
Very good.
And I know we're sort of just going on about how great everything apart from Red 13 is during the Red 13 episode, but I also really liked a lot of Red 13's writing. Him being a teenager trying to be cool and grown up really comes through a lot stronger than I realized it did. Mm-hmm. Even with the weird translation, it comes through.
Honestly, I'm kind of just, I don't know, the more I play this game, the more the translation fascinates me, because we've talked about it before, like, it's not great, and in a way there's a lot of subtlety lost because there's a lot of specificity lost. But at the same time, there is so much of that subtlety there. It's just really weird. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't feel like it comes through as clearly, but if you're paying attention, it's still absolutely there. Like, Nanaki never... He is so reserved and serious, and there's a bit, afterwards where he's like, I think I grew up a little. That's what happened, or something like that. And just something about the writing of that feels so much more childlike than he ever allowed himself to be. And I don't know, it's weird. Like, all of this stuff has nuance and subtlety in it, even though the translation isn't really made for that, and obviously sometimes lacks it. It's very strange how all this stuff comes across, even if it doesn't come across extremely clearly or obviously.
Yeah, I think that's one reason why it feels like the popular conception of a lot of these characters, like, didn't really match what was actually in the original game a lot of the time, because a lot of these subtleties, it's there, but it's really easy to miss. But then I feel like since Remake came out, and like we have Cloud being a dope and Aerith being a little chaotic and stuff, I feel like we all understand it now more.
I still remember when, because I had made my video on the game just before, like a bit before Remake came out, and so part of me was, had the same opinion that we're all expressing here about the subtlety in the writing, and part of me was also like, it's also possible that they're just coming across wrong, or maybe I'm reading into it for like lack of detail. Who knows? And then Remake came out, and every character was like exactly as I had understood them to be, and I was like, okay, that's great. Actually, that's good. I'm glad.
Here's what I think. Here's what I think maybe is why this is. Like, as I mentioned, like what's really striking me here is how the characters' personalities really, and their like their internal struggles really do come through like very consistently throughout the game, and not just in their big moments. And because of that, even if your translation is very weird, like, I do think that, yeah, like as Sam said, like oftentimes you'll get something that's more buried and subtle probably than it was in the original Japanese, but it's like still there. And the thing is, these games are long, and the characters have a lot of lines of dialogue. So if you look at any individual line of dialogue, you really might not be able to tell, oh, this person's deal is X or Y or Z, right? Even if maybe it should be there because of lack of specificity. But yeah, like little things about punctuation and particular word choices, some of the things that ironically make you go, that's a weird way to write that. Stretch that out over the course of a game, and all those weird little strange choices add up to you being able to get what that character's deal is, right? Like in aggregate, you do get it, and it's almost like the game's translator kind of accidentally, and again, I don't want to be mean to this person, but I also don't want to give them too much credit and say they're some kind of genius. Like, due to factors such as their own brain and their own probable talents as a translator, but also things like, budget and time crunch and having a spreadsheet of it not being presented in a very way that's very conducive to translating. All those things, it's almost like they kind of invented their own weird little language, their own weird, slightly bizarre, off-kilter way of expressing ideas. And over dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of lines of dialogue for a single character, you just sort of triangulate what you're supposed to get about them, which is why you really do gotta pay attention. And again, like, I haven't played the game in the original Japanese, but most games like this, or really most works in translation from any language, from the language, like I'm a lot more familiar with Russian, right, than Japanese. It's just like, yeah, no, you wouldn't need to pay as much attention in the original. A lot of the subtlety is not actually that subtle.
Like Red 13 in particular, shout outs to Let's Mosey, a painfully long retranslation project of Final Fantasy VII by Tim Rogers. We picked up on I guess I grew up a little today. That is the one time that like he seemed childlike. When he introduces himself, he accidentally uses like baby boy pronouns in the Japanese.
Yeah.
So just reading his first line of dialogue, you get like, oh, this is a weird baby man-child lion. And we had to travel with him for several hours before we started to pick up on it.
But we did eventually get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The people who are afraid of pronouns, just imagine if they tried to learn Japanese.
Oh, gosh.
But absolutely what you were saying, Matty Grace, I totally agree. I think in an earlier episode, I said that it's sort of all the pieces of what, like, the exact amount of talent and knowledge the translator had mixed with the exact ways in which the translation was really rushed and poorly handled by the management. It all comes together to sort of stumble into a Lynchian quality where things are just more mysterious and concepts are just sort of like slipping out of your grasp a little.
Which honestly makes sense. It's kind of fitting for a game that deals so much in the slipperiness of identity and desire and memory, and also the literal metaphysics of the world itself, right? Like, yeah, it makes sense, man. Like, this game's all about penumbras, dude. Like, and therefore, each character has sort of a penumbra putting forth the moldings of its features beneath the regular lines of dialogue. That's a sentence I just said.
Yeah, it is a good sentence, I think.
In case you're curious, the penumbra is what the Supreme Court used when they were talking about the quote-unquote right to privacy, which is behind like the right to like get an abortion and stuff like that. My personal opinion is that that's actually stupid and bullshit. Look, I'm pro-choice here. I just think that the legal argument for it is actually stupid and doesn't make any sense. Which is why we should just write a law and not rely on Supreme Court justices, right? But they always said that, like, okay, so this right isn't actually in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, but it's sort of a penumbra that permeates it. Anyway, while referring to that concept, I stumbled into quoting Moby Dick. Sorry.
That is so you.
Yeah, that's the most Matty Grace sentence of ever. Is subtweeting at the Supreme Court while accidentally quoting Moby Dick.
Well, to be clear, it's a great word. It's a great word.
It is a great word.
I wouldn't know the word penumbra if it wasn't for that fun little political fact.
Well, I'll try and get us back on track a little bit by just talking about Nanaki a little bit more, because it was funny. From the first time I played the game, I liked him fine, but it wasn't all that memorable to me. I really liked him more on subsequent playthroughs, especially because he's one of the weird, like, okay, JRPGs are long and they have a lot of characters, which means that sometimes you inevitably end up with a character who goes through their arc like before the halfway point and just kind of hangs out after that.
It's like, well, I don't have anything else to do. I already did my thing, guys.
Yeah, like, Nanaki's definitely one. I mean, like, unless there's something else I'm forgetting about that we'll get to eventually, Nanaki's definitely one of those. This is his arc. He's still around. He still has important parts to play and good lines and stuff, but this is the point where his character reaches its apex, and that does involve his, like, actual choice to go with you and help save the planet. So it's not like he's just twiddling his thumbs the rest of the time. He doesn't even have
thumbs.
Okay, that's fair. Twiddling his paws, whatever. He is fulfilling what he wants, like the logical end point of his arc by coming with you. So it's not like he's just useless after this, but it's a good arc. And it's one of the earliest, like, complete concepts of identity that we get, which is, I'd say, one of the absolute most central themes of the game. Mm-hmm. Just, that the struggle of, like, essentially denying who and what he is out of shame for his father, and then upon realizing that he was wrong about that, deciding to instead embrace who he is and use his better knowledge of himself to accomplish something great, like saving the planet. Like, it's a simple enough arc, but it's strong and solid and really speaks to what will eventually become a major central concept in the entire game. And just the scene of him, finding out about Seto is really, really good. You've got, like, a nice, soft, almost like harpsichord version of the Cosmo Canyon theme going, where you find out Like, he finds out about his death. It's like a genuinely impacting and emotional scene. The scenery and atmosphere and music is fantastic. Yeah, like, it's just a really, really solid little character arc. And especially upon realizing that part of reclaiming his identity also means allowing himself to be a child instead of trying to pretend to be more grown up. That's great. Like, that's an extra shade of depth to the character that is just really, really nice. And I don't know. He has a really good little arc here, and I like him.
I have
He's
two
a good
comments
boy.
on this. The first one is, honestly, though, goals. Like, imagine having already gone through your arc and now just getting to vibe. Like, right? Man, that'd be one day. One day that'll be me. One day they'll be like, yeah, Maddie Grace, she doesn't really have much going on. You know, she used to have all this shit going on, and then she went through it and sort of found herself, and now she's just also there, just reliable, you know? Just does her thing, contributes, nothing more to say. That'd be awesome. I would love that. Secondly, you could almost say that, I think that what you said about how him being in the party, him not really having anything interesting going on, but just being present in the party is him acting out his purpose. You could almost say that he's the first character in the game to be doing what he's doing on purpose.
Yeah, fair.
Like, everyone's here, but they're fighting without really fully forming their reason to fight, and he's like, no, I've gone through my arc. I'm not here by circumstance. I'm not here because I have nothing else to do. I'm not here because of my pain. I'm not here because I need to work through my shit. I'm here because I did work through my shit and I know what I need to be doing, and it's this. Which is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
So we managed to get some cool insight on the character, even after you said repeatedly you don't care about him.
Yes, I still find him. I just don't. I can find something thematically deep about a character while still being like, I'm not going to put him in my party. Like, you know, like, I don't want to hang out with him. I don't want to ask him for a beer. I just don't find. I don't care for him as a
date with him at the Gold Saucer?
No, I don't want to go on a date with him, but I can still respect the thematic import of his journey. Telling
Just next time someone asks me out on a date, but I'm not into them, I'll just be like, look, I respect the thematic import of your journey.
I just don't want to go out on a date with you. Yeah, that's how it is. I'm sorry. I wouldn't, okay?
Check back in this space next year for when Rebirth makes Red 13 Maddie's favorite Final Fantasy VII character.
I mean, that could totally happen. Oh, I also wanted one more thing about Red 13 because I thought of this while Sam was talking. Also, it's just kind of weird that he's a very unimportant character when it comes to like the major capital P plot of the game, which is why it's weird that he's there for almost the entire game. Usually, less important characters get introduced later in a game, right? Like, you start with the big ones, and then once you're on disc 3, it's like, here's Bippo, the fucking rabbit, who's gonna join your character, because we didn't have enough characters yet in the party, right?
Here's Miranda, because Shauna became too important for the party and had to go away, and you needed a healer. So Miranda has nothing going on.
Yeah,
Here she is on
usually like the B team shows up like towards the end of the game. This is just like, nah, man, he's been there since like day one of this character's journey, despite having no particularly important connection to the actual capital P plot. It's kind of cute.
God damn it! I had something I wanted to say and we competed for that slot of talking, and you won.
God damn!
And I can't remember what it was.
It'll come back, maybe.
I've got something if you don't have it yet, I guess.
Go ahead.
Just a quick observation. I realized there is, because I was going through my notes again from my own video, and oh gosh, where'd it go? Okay, there was a line. Okay, so apparently Nanaki's mother also knew about Seto and how he'd been a hero, but there was a line somewhere indicating that she made Bugenhagen promise to keep the cave, like to seal the cave shut and not tell a soul about what happened there. And I think this still isn't a very strong explanation for why they didn't tell Nanaki about it. But I think that the idea was that they didn't want him going in there because they knew that the ghosts of the Gi tribe would be there and that it'd be dangerous for him, and they didn't want him running in with a soft to try and revive his dad. I think that was the idea.
He got turned into stone in a cutscene. We all know that doesn't work.
But yeah,
I mean, that sort of makes sense, but I feel like by the time he's, 48, they should have told him by now.
Oh, yeah, but again, 16.
I feel like at 16, you should be able to be told that your dad was fine, but don't go in this cave.
They could have just shown him a picture of the dad in the cave. They could have just told him. He didn't have to literally go see it.
You could have told him, your father did a great thing, but we're not going to tell you where.
I guess you could just tell him he died protecting instead of, his body.
Say he died and he got obliterated, so there's no grave. Sorry.
Yeah, there are better options for sure. Oh, right. I had a what's it about this too? Okay, so when I first played Final Fantasy VII, I think, like I said before, I was absolutely enthralled, absolutely loved it, and then I got to Cosmo fucking Canyon, and I love this place. I love the music, but I also am to this day a little bit tired of it because the boss at the end of that area has this one big attack that there must have been a tiny little scratch right on that part of the data or something, because it would always freeze up on me whenever he did that attack. And I tried. So, like, the save point is before that whole dungeon. So I had to go through it over and over again. I tried so many times to, like...
And it's not a short dungeon.
No, it's not. And eventually I just was like, okay, well, I'm going to level up ridiculous. Like, I'm going to level grind so much that I can just beat him before he does it. But even then, there's one point where I was kind of close to beating him, and then he did it. And it, froze the whole thing up again. I had to borrow another friend's disc 1 so I could get through that part and then give it back, because it just would not let me do that. So I have fond memories of this whole segment because it's extremely good. I also have very negative associations with it because I was just in it for so damn long dealing with this stupid glitch. It's just bad.
Spicy opinion about this game. It's incidental dungeons. They're too long across the board.
Yeah, I don't know. The Mithril mines were pretty short.
That's true. But a number of them are too long. This one's too long, and there have been other ones that have been too long, and there will continue to be some that are too long. This game went so far away from the direction of classic JRPG and so far into the new direction of, like, what if JRPGs were actually just like a bunch of set pieces and cutscenes, that you can't do that while still having dungeons this long.
Yeah.
Unless it's like the final dungeon or the final dungeon of a disc.
Lord knows the final dungeon of this game is too long too, though. Damn.
That one gets a pass because it's the final dungeon, and it does rule.
Fair.
But yes, it is fucking long.
One thing that I am surprised at is how dense this game is, because we're on episode 5. 4 of the 5 episodes have been real long, and we're like, I think we're a little under halfway through.
Yeah.
I was saying before about how this game doesn't do the weird random, like, oh, we have to gather these 13 things now before the plot can move forward bullshit or any of that. Like, it is surprisingly sparse on filler. The vast majority of this game is actual plot movement and development, and it's kind of amazing.
Even the parts in disc 2 that feel like filler that I don't particularly like aren't actually filler, because the main plot happens to happen while you're there. They are delivered to the characters as if they would be a side episode, but they're not.
Also, I will say, conceptually speaking, when I was a kid, and this isn't a spoiler of like the plot, but it's a spoiler of like the thing that we're talking about. Like, when I was a kid, I always thought that, like, having the characters literally just not be able to accomplish their goal, and therefore they might as well just fuck around and do something else. I guess we have nothing else nothing else better to do, was really stupid writing and sort of demotivating to like the player, and just like what a weird way to suck the air out of a narrative. But now I'm like, no, that's a million times better. Like we have to go get the 7 McDoohickeys because the plot has contrived us to need them is a million times worse than because of important plot reasons that also have to do with our emotions, we are unable to go do the thing. So I guess we might as well go kill time and get the 7 doohickeys. That's actually, and learn about ourselves in the process. Actually better. Actually significantly better. Because at least in this case, the plot isn't lying to you and making you think you need these things.
Yeah. No one's trying to kill time in Final Fantasy VII. That happens in Final Fantasy VIII.
Shut up.
I will say, too, it's so easy in these games to feel like, oh, man, okay, like Final Fantasy X, no spoilers, but the game finally opens up when, like, the final boss is right fucking there and everything's about to go to hell. Like, you spend so long just going around trying to get that thing that lets Lulu break the 9,999 damage limit, and, you know, everything's about to go to shit, and you're just doing that instead. Like, a lot of open world games, it feels like you have this like, oh, why are they spending so much time doing this? There's important shit going on. So to have these moments where, like, yeah, the plot is moving forward in this game most of the time, but there are also times like this where, like, no one's in Cosmo Canyon being like, oh, we have, you know, only a day to reach this other thing, we need to go, you know. It gives you time to breathe. It gives you an opportunity to just explore and talk to people and not be rushed by the story or make it feel weird that you're not rushing through the story. It's nice.
I'm realizing that this game gets a lot of mileage out of helplessness. Like, there's no rush to go save the day when you are literally unable to go save the day right now. Right? Like, yeah, you're chasing after Sephiroth, but you're not chasing him in, like, the sense of, like, he's 10 feet in front of you running with his back perfectly straight like Tom Cruise and you're 20 goons. Like, no, like, you're on a long journey. You taking a night to stay and talk about your feelings isn't gonna, like, you don't even really know where you're not even really chasing him. You don't know how far, you're trying to find out where he went, right? Like, you're on his trail. But when you ask people, hey, have you seen a guy wearing like a black cape? They're not saying, oh yeah, you just missed him. They're saying, oh yeah, he came through here a while ago, right? Like, so there is really no rush, and you're not even trying to stop him because you don't know what he's doing. You're really on a journey of discovery right now. And until you learn what's going on, you can't do anything. So the fact that the characters don't even know what kind of bad thing is currently happening or how the hell they could possibly stop it, all they're doing is trying to learn and discover something about Sephiroth, about themselves, about the world, allows this lackadaisical pace, which is very cool. And yet it feels very fast-paced.
Now I'm just thinking about Tom Cruise as Sephiroth. Which I think Tom Cruise is a great movie star, but I do not think he'd be a good Sephiroth.
No. I think he'd probably... Okay, hold on. Okay, so which character in this game would Tom Cruise do good as?
Sid?
This is what came to my mind first as well.
No, Sid is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh god.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I could see Tom Cruise being Rufus.
I was thinking that too. Like doing a very like unfucking hinged like Tom Cruise on Oprah ass like Rufus.
Yeah, I can see that.
Would be very good.
Okay, well now we're gonna have to talk at some point about how we'd cast a live-action Final Fantasy VII movie, I guess.
Yeah, we can do that later. But we know who Tom Cruise is.
We should just like find something that will randomly give us a name of an actor, and we have to assign them to a Final Fantasy VII character.
No,
that'd be fun.
eventually we'd just start running out, and we'd have to be like, oh well, I guess Idris Elba has to be Red 13.
Actually, Idris Elba as Red 13 is the correct choice. So, man, his Knuckles is so good, though.
I can't think of anyone for Dave Bautista, which is hard because he's so good.
He has to be in it. Timothée Chalamet as Cloud.
At any rate, what was I about to say? God damn it! Edward Norton is Sephiroth.
Oh dear.
I love how we keep positing insane, scrawny people for this big, imposing man of Sephiroth.
I mean, Sephiroth is tall, but he doesn't have like big, strong man energy. He has like scary K-pop star energy.
Anywho, any more memorable moments about this portion of the game before we wrap up for today?
Dave Bautista as Palmer.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely. Well done. You figured it out. You cracked the case.
Oh no.
Dave Bautista as Ketchi.
Oh gosh.
Would Ketchi have the Scottish accent?
Madeline Klein as Tifa.
I don't know if I know who that is.
For the record, I'm just thinking about actors who were in Glass Onion.
Who
Madeline
was that
Klein,
in Glass Onion?
the fucking super hot one that's Dave Bautista's girlfriend.
Oh, Whiskey.
Yeah. She's hot. She's been in other stuff too, though. She's definitely one of those like, oh yeah, her type actresses for me, though. I can't remember what she's been in.
Mm-hmm. And I think we might be running out of stuff to say about Final Fantasy VII.
Believe it or not, I'm not. We were just talking about that. I've got Men Moms still. I didn't know we were in Men Moms.
Oh yeah,
So-
in case y'all hear is I have 0, so yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, okay.
That's why I've been riffing so much. Okay, I'm good.
Let's see. I mean, some of it we have already covered for sure, but let's see. Okay, so I need to get on a bit of a pedestal here because I think that the whole live stream thing is really fucking cool. Especially because of how much this game is talking about like environmentalism and capitalism and the destruction of the planet for greed and stuff. Like the way that Bugenhagen explains the life stream is that the life of the planet also includes the life and souls of everyone, which essentially equates us to the planet. Like there is a not insignificant, not theoretical way degree to which burning Mako, burning the planet's energy for fuel, is literally burning like our own life forces, burning the lives and memories of our ancestors, of everything else on the planet. Like it legit takes it from we're destroying the planet to by destroying the planet we are also not just metaphorically or theoretically sometime in the future because of destroying the planet, but literally destroying ourselves. And that is cool. Like I'm a fan of the different ways that fantasy stories use like fantasy metaphor to communicate their ideas, and that is just really neat to take it from.
Okay, I unfortunately do need to riff on this because you just lit a light bulb in my brain.
Oh, no, okay.
By commodifying a resource that comes out of the planet, you are inherently alienating yourself from the planet. In the real world, that's the thing. That's the thing that happens, and that's the metaphor that you could totally make that metaphor here. Like in this game, you're literally destroying your own soul in a literal, actual way because that's how this game's cosmology works. But on Earth, like it's like my rant that I occasionally give about like open world games and how when you look out at this beautiful digital world that some artist created and all you see is a map full of little dots that represent resources that make your character stronger. It is an inherently exploitative, very much like imperialist extractive relationship between character and world.
Yeah.
And that fucking sucks. And how that mirrors a lot of real world ideology. Same thing, like if like imagine some, like rubbing their hands together, business person looking at, looking at like some a beautiful like Middle Eastern desert and just thinking, damn, there's probably lots of oil under there, or Texas for that matter, lots of oil in Texas. It is severing your relationship to the planet to even to conceive of it in such extractive terms, right? Because you're not going to the planet for what it is. You're not going to it because it's part of you. You're not going to it because it's beautiful and it gives you everything that you need to live. You're going to it because you need to take something from it, and that is like an irreversible thing for a species to be doing, basically.
Yeah.
Even the people who aren't doing it, and that's the thing is that even if you're personally not the one doing it, I won't say you're complicit. I don't believe in complicity, but and that's political complicity is not a thing in my opinion. But you are affected by the ideological rot. Because you exist in a system that has specific compulsions, right? Specific compulsions and ideologies. So it's just like, like even if you personally have never been like, damn, I wonder what I can get out of this beautiful field of flowers that'll enrich me and myself, right? You are still going to be trained to look at land as something that has a specific quantifiable amount of value or not. If not for you, at least for somebody. And if it's not for you, it's because you can't afford to purchase it. Right? It's like, well, if I was a different kind of person who could afford land, then this is an investment. I mean, geez, the idea of land being an investment. Yeah, I'm going to buy this land, do literally nothing with it because, in 10 years from now, the property value will go up. Like, what a fucked way of looking at reality. Anyway, live stream. Perfect metaphor for that.
Yep. See, this is what I exist here to do, is take up a bunch of time with a bunch of men moms and then take up more time by inspiring other rants. So, okay.
I think, to be clear, I think the live stream is primarily a metaphor for something completely unrelated to any of this, which is why I hadn't thought about it in this terms. But
right. Its relation to the game's theme of death and stuff, I think, is sort of the most important part of it, but it also is absolutely vital for the themes of environmentalism.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah. It's all connected, really, which is part of what makes the game so damn good. But okay, so there's the bit where the Cosmo Canyon music gets louder or softer based on where you are within Cosmo Canyon, like when you go in different rooms and stuff, which is really nice. It makes it feel a lot more diegetic. And then it's even cooler. You mentioned briefly that when you go down into the cave, the music fades away. Since I did that so many fucking times when I was playing this part, I started realizing that it couldn't do it completely smoothly. It has specific triggers. The volume goes down by a few ticks, like each time you go down one of the ropes, which is fun to me because it made me realize why you have to go down all those ropes in the first place, because otherwise it probably would have been kind of difficult for them to manage that effect. But instead, they make it so that
it just
goes down a little bit with each one. Yeah. So for the most part, it's not even all that noticeable. I really only noticed it because I did it so many times, and because there's one like near but not quite at the bottom where the volume goes down a little more than everything else. And just, it's a neat little trick. So let's see. That was fun. Oh, and raising to the last thing I said, there's a bit where Bugenhagen said all living things are being used up and thrown away. And that's just a nice little summary of what's going on there. Let's see. The Aerith stuff. I did find... Okay, so you'd mentioned that the spirits of the Gi tribe were there and couldn't return to the live stream, and that wasn't super expanded upon. But what the information we do get is... Because he says that they were very vengeful and angry and couldn't return to the live stream. And that was interesting to me, because, there's a potential implication there, something you could extrapolate about, hateful vengeance kind of makes you incompatible with the planet and you can't return to it that way, which is an interesting theory of ghosts with unfinished business and stuff in relation to the cosmology of this game. And I guess also just that that our sins, our mistreatment of others wouldn't is incompatible with the planet and we're not allowed back into it after that or something. I don't know, that we don't get enough information about that to be sure about anything, but it just seemed like a cool little detail. Also, I love that when Bugenhagen is showing everyone that star map or whatever, Cloud just kind of out of the blue asks what happens when they die. And I kind of just love that, like, here, guys, here's what the stars look like. And Cloud's like, yeah, cool astrological projection. Anyway, does heaven exist? Like, what's up with that? It was it's just one of those things where the way that the dialogue
like, this guy seems to know everything about everything. I bet he could answer this important question I've had on my mind lately.
Where babies come from?
Is it related to what we were talking about? No, but you seem to know things. So just,
Yep.
It's been on my mind. It's been bugging me.
Yeah. I'm sure some of the awkward nature of that comes, is partially from the writing or the localization, but still it just kind of made me laugh. Okay, just two more. I love that Vincent was all like, I must brood and, just atone for my sins by staying away from everything. And then he's like, hey, wait, do I get to kill Hojo? And we're like, yeah, probably. He's like, sure, cool.
Let's fucking go.
I relate to someone whose like entire goal is just like, hey, if I get to kill Hojo, I'm in.
Yeah,
honestly, I would kill Hojo.
Classic anime/JRPG trope is the guy who's there not for the main reason, but because if he comes with you, he knows there's probably a chance he'll get to deal with his thing.
Yep.
Which usually is murdering a guy when this trope is invoked, but not always.
Yeah, and certainly is here. And, I get it. Hojo fucking sucks. Hate that dude. Okay, and that last one. I mentioned before that I think it's funny that we got to summon a powerful god because a small child with a dolphin friend gave us a rock. During this stuff, we get Ramu, which I really enjoy because we get Ramu because Scarlet is like digging around and is like, no, I need bigger, better, more powerful materia. And on one hand, I think it makes sense that a powerful summon materia would be in the ruins of an old Mako reactor. That makes more sense to me than in the hands of some random girl, at least. But then also, when Scarlet's like, I need something big and powerful, we don't know what she's looking for yet. And of course, there's a specific thing that she means by that. But I think it indicates a lot when she's like, this one can just summon a god. Forget that. I need bigger. So, I like the way that we get that one. It feels like it makes a little more sense than some of the others.
Also, I love that this wasn't a joke when I said she says she's looking for big, large, huge materia.
Yeah.
That's a direct quote. And then Cloud's like, big, large, huge materia.
That echo
when
dialogue
Cloud's
is...
just repeating something that someone else said, I do snake voice.
Yes.
Of course.
I will go ahead and say here, this is the most unimportant spoiler ever, I don't care. Later on, there is a plot thing that's literally called Big Materia. Capital B, capital M. Now, is she referring to that here, or is she referring to something else that I won't spoil? I'm not actually sure. But yeah, the idea that she's just like, no, I need like a big materia, and they're like, this one can summon fucking Ramu, like that's big, right? She's like, no, like big. What if materia, but large? Like, I don't know how to explain this to you guys. The translation of big materia is so funny to me. It's so childlike.
You are above even the materia.
Yeah, like they could have called it like super materia or ultimate materia. Well, ultima materia, perhaps.
Ultimate materia. Yeah.
But it's called big materia.
Yep. Oh, also we got to see more of Elena in this one, and she's still great. I love her. Anyway,
Elena is gonna be so good in Rebirth. I know it.
Oh, I really hope so. She got the short end of I'm still mad about Advent Children for her, and I like Advent Children. I actually like Advent Children more than most people I know.
Oh, it's great.
But it did her dirty.
Yeah.
For movie night for this game, do we do the obvious and do Advent Children, or do we do like Fight Club or something for other?
I would be fine with Advent. I'd be fine with Advent Children because it does own, and I would love to watch it again and holler about it. On the other hand, if we think of something, but if we think of something stupider, I'm definitely down for that.
I would like to watch Advent Children, but if we find something really funny, I don't know. We could do 2 movie nights if we wanted.
Yeah, I'm down for whatever, but I will express my desire to talk about Advent Children because I need to come to that game's defense. That movie's defense, rather. It's
The defense is easy. It's got the soundtrack is the best music Nobuo Uematsu has ever written in his entire career. That's it. That's the entire defense.
Yeah, look, it's not a good movie, but it's also a good movie. So, like,
Also, it's got scenes where characters are putting on gloves and it looks really realistic.
Yep.
And they do that a few times, if I recall correctly.
Hold on, wait. I figured out the perfect movie that actually explores the themes of this game, unlike Advent Children. Blade Runner 2049.
I still need to watch that. I super need to watch that.
It's about not knowing who you are and being depressed about it.
Yo.
So a Blade Runner movie. Okay, that makes sense.
But in a different
Harrison
way.
Ford as Sid.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, actually, I'm here for that. That's good.
No question. That's the perfect casting decision.
Sam, do you have anything else before we...
Okay, I will say Sid's portrait looks kind of like Neil Patrick Harris, and now I kind of want to see that out of curiosity. But
wait, Harrison Ford as Sid and everyone else is a Muppet?
Oh no!
I mean,
Okay.
is basically
Aerith
a
is a
Muppet.
human and everyone else is a Muppet. To make the Muppets tragic, I guess.
No, the Sid one is funnier. That's the right way to do it.
It's funnier, that's true.
I know that's if I hadn't already broached this topic and had simply asked Bernard, I think that's what Bernard would say, and I've absorbed Bernard's casting people as Muppets, except for one guy who's a human abilities a little bit.
Anyway, I think we're done.
Now we're
Yes,
done.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
I've done just elongating things with all my men moms.
It's okay.
If you like what you heard today and you want to help us offset the costs of running the show, head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations are put back into the show to make it better and offset hosting costs and the like. We recently have made a large purchase for next year's podcastingness, and I've shown parts of it to Bernard and Maddie and Sam, and it's fantastic, and I'm excited for that, and it's all because of cool listeners like you. If you want to donate $1 or more a month, you'll get access to our Book Club no Kaseki episodes a month before everyone else. Right now we're in Retail Hell month, so our retail manager co-host has not been able to record. But as soon as we get through all of that, we'll be back to weekly, and so you'll have like 4 episodes ahead of the plebes. You also can vote on our polls to decide what game we play next, like the aforementioned 2 hours ago when we mentioned Skies of Arcadia versus Paper Mario. And if you decide to bump up your monthly contribution to $5 a month, you'll also get your name shouted out at the end of the episode, just like this. Shout outs to Kildron, Freddie Rodriguez, Bernie L. Taylor, AA Ron 524, Anthony Lerma, Vimk, Jfro Prime, and Doho. And then if you are really cool and you really like us, you can up your donation to $20 a month, where we'll not only read your name, but give you a 1-sentence shout out to whatever you want. So this can be a URL for your Twitch stream or YouTube, or if you're like Eliza Tantavi, she says to check out. This was the one thing I didn't pull up because I didn't write it in my notes, and I always just go to look at our thing. But go to critical-distance.com. It's an aggregator for good games criticism and journalism. And our other luminary, Carr, is a dentist. So his shout out is not for a Twitch stream, but for your own mouth. He asks that you brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time before you go to bed. And as a bonus tip from my dentist to you is when you're brushing your back teeth, don't open wide and say just kind of open enough for your toothbrush to get back there, and it's actually way more effective on brushing your back teeth, which is important.
Well, that reminds me, I was going to make a very important riff about earlier. Your whole story about your dentist, I forgot. There's what's the moral of that whole story? Turns out it's pretty much fine to not go to the dentist for 25 years. Sorry, Carr.
Yeah.
You say as you're now in horrible pain?
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah. For the
But
most
it'll be
part,
fine.
you don't have to go. But
It'll probably be fine.
so you don't have to go for 25 years, but on that 26th year, that's when you got to go. You got to get him out of there. But Carr does not approve of this message. He says, brush your teeth twice a day. Most importantly, the time before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I've been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
Oh, I'm Maddie Grace Webben.
And I'm Sam, the game professor.
Toodaloo, folks.